former Kansas star running back Jake Sharp with us on 365 Sports Saturday, 11 o'clock, just after 11 o'clock, Baylor and Kansas, in a game that really, it's an elimination game in a way, Jake, because of the two teams where they are. But what a story for Kansas this year, and they obviously want to get back on track. But just what you've seen from the Jayhawks with Lance Leipold and what they're doing?
Yeah, Dave, it's night and day. Obviously, with the culture that Coach Leipold has been able to build, we're obviously still close to the program with the athlete performance that we do. We've got a good handful of guys on the team, probably most notably Sam Burt. And Sam was telling me it was last summer, and I was trying to get him, down to a youth camp in Slime. He's like, hey, I'd love to come, but, on Wednesdays we have our culture seminars. And, I kind of laughed. I was like, well, you can get out of the culture seminar, can't you? And he explained to me, no, I can't, and it's a big deal, and it's how we're changing things, Jake, and I see it now. I mean, it's flat out, as everyone knows, it's all about culture, and you have a period of time, I really think about a 3-year window to grab the trust of your players and administration, and Lance has been able to do that, and it's been just a blessing, for us KU fans. KU fans, they'll show up, if you got something to see, and our guys are playing hard, and they are putting on a show.
How would you define culture?
Everything. I don't know how you would do everything other than without quality culture, you have nothing. And you can have all sorts of different types of culture. I mean, like what's the Nick Saban speech? Where you can be bad, average, good, great, or elite. And really the main element of all that is culture and what standard you hold yourself to. And if you don't have a standard, a high standard in your culture, or a culture of being unselfish, and all the things that we already all know, what makes a winning program and what makes that culture. But the reality is it's, I guess if I was to define it, it's, just that the standard set forth that a group plays by. And I've seen an absolute shift in Lawrence, Kansas, in the football program of what they've been doing from a culture standpoint.
You had a heck of a career at Kansas. You were a part of that fantastic, dynamic 12-1 team and played in the Orange Bowl and all of what you did under Coach Mangino. What was that like? Because that was Kansas has names in their program. John Hadel, John Riggins, Gale Sayers, and there's others. That was perhaps as good a year as they've ever had. What was that like that year?
It was a culture of winning. When the tide's rolling, that wave's rolling one way, it's hard to slow it down.
Mm-hmm.
When you're a winner, you're a winner. And when you're a loser, you're a loser. And the culture's the same. You might have the culture of a loser. Okay, and Coach Mangino instilled a culture, of a winning mentality, and actually sacrificing and doing the sucky things that make that possible. And there was just there was zero acceptance of anything other than perfection, or at least what you aspire to be and chase that perfection. And there was discipline, and you played hard. So there was no excuse for anything. And I think that's what we were missing. I think a guy would drop a ball, in the past, and it was like, hey, okay, man, well, that doesn't work. Like, if you drop a ball, you're a piece of crap in some way.
Right.
It's unacceptable. Like, you get off the field. If you can't get it done, God bless you, it ain't going to work. So I just think, when you watch our defense, a guy gets stood up, there's guys coming in from all angles, letting the guy have it. And in the past, we'd have a DB going after a guy on a goal line, a chance to tag a guy pretty hard, and he wouldn't take the shot. And you watch any championship team, any great, or just any winning team, your defense is taking every shot they get, and that's just the difference. Just that little bit of difference. There's very little difference between winning and losing, but I think that culture is where it lies.
Do you remember the 58-10 in 2007 and the games you played against Baylor when they were struggling?
I do. I remember getting our butt kicked in the fourth quarter my freshman year. I remember, and I'll never forget this. Akeem Talib and Coach Mangino about killed each other in the locker room afterwards because our defense it was a bad deal. Like we had some breakdowns, and everybody. I've never seen grown men more upset with each other and angry, like top to bottom. And obviously Akeem was one of our big defensive leaders, and obviously Mangino is our leader. So it was. Everybody was highly upset, and then I think that really set the tone in '07. When we really got on track and things were clicking for us. That when we played Baylor, it was at home. I believe it was at home in '07.
In fact, that game in '06, Sean Bell went nuts at 400 yards and 5 touchdown passes. You mentioned it's 36-35, which I know bothered you, and it was just a shootout. They scored 19 points in the fourth quarter. He's now the quarterback's coach at Baylor. How things come back in a way,
isn't it? Though, yeah, it's wild. Yeah, he went off, man. Yeah, he went off, and everybody on our defense. And God bless Akeem, he's not the most cool-headed guy in those situations, and neither is Coach. So it was crazy. They were like, it was crazy. It was wild. Yeah, everybody was. I think there were like probably 10 fights that had to be broken up in that locker room after that game.
You could catch it out of the backfield. You obviously had nearly 2,000 yards rushing. 800 yards your last couple of years. You were, like 5? I'm going to guess, 5'10", 190, 185?
Yeah, maybe a little over 190 on a good day.
You had quickness, and speed, but you also had the ability to kind of like get skinny in a hole or wherever you were. What was your best trait as a running back at KU?
Whew, I wouldn't say it was patience or vision. Bill, I don't know. That's the hard way. I mean, I think the speed helped me out, and then my senior year, I broke my fibula versus Duke and played the first half with it, and then I probably wasn't the same till, the last game of the year. But I think when I kind of lost that step, I think I was really, not who I was able to be. So I think probably just speed, I think, and that's why we train our athletes, we work on just linear speed, man. If you're fast enough, everything seems to come into play. Nobody cares how much you squat. Nobody cares how much you bench press. They just want to see that correlate in speed and agility, and I think if a guy can possess that, then you can teach him to do the other things like catch a football or shoot a basketball.
Jake Sharp, former running back at Kansas, now a trainer, showcases and combines and all of that. You mentioned even working with players who are at Kansas, and it takes a lot, a discipline for someone. Someone has to want to be trained. Someone has to want to get in shape and become fit. And is it difficult for someone like yourself that was at a high level of college athletics to work with somebody that may be overweight, out of shape, or maybe have some bad habits?
Dave, let me tell you, when you train athletes, they don't die. When you train an out of shape, maybe person with a couple different risk factors or an elderly person, those people can die. And we have great trainers that specialize, in those particular niches. I do not. I did early on, and I will tell you it's much easier for me to train an athlete.
Right.
Less nerve-wracking. You were telling me your story. I mean, I tell you what, having a trainer, essentially almost like a life coach and a friend, that can help you just maximize and celebrate the active lifestyle. So we help people, mentally and physically. That's what our gyms exist for. And we just, both of those two things, and try and focus on improving them any way we can, and it just makes people's lives better. It's a blessing. We're going to be doing some showcases down there, your way in Texas, I think this summer, and that's exciting.
That's good.
And we're hoping to be able to work, maybe remotely with some of those Texas kids too.
So Todd Reesing, obviously Kerry Meyer, but you guys had a nice run. There was a reason. There was talent and there was really good coaching. What was Todd Reesing? How would you explain how valuable he was?
He was the it factor. He was the culture. That guy looks at 10 TV screens and runs numbers and is the fastest thinking, like high energy, no excuses guy ever. And he was kind of our commander-in-chief, the brains behind everything. And he still is that guy. He's a CEO type guy, right? I mean, To this day, the quickest, fastest thinking guy, his brain will process something 10 times faster than his running back ever did. Yeah, and I think all the great ones do. I mean, a lot of the great quarterbacks, they're just different. They are. Like, their brain processes at a faster rate, and they seem to be able to handle things that the normal person can't handle. And that's what I would say about Todd, and just a relentless competitor. I mean, in a winter, I mean, you could be, playing beer pong, and he would try and kill whoever he was playing. I mean,
yeah.
or anything. I mean, it could be, pickleball. Like,
right.
The dude is out to kill, and he just gets off on competition.
KU putting a lot of money into the football program, and one of the reasons is Lance Leipold and what he's done. When you have somebody that wins in a place where they haven't, then others go, we want him. Baylor's had coaches that have won at Baylor when they used to not be able to win, and people wanted them, and even the name of Dave Aranda pops up. Is there any chatter among former players in Letterman about how valuable Lance Leipold is, and also making sure you do everything you can to keep him?
Oh, no question. And I'm not going to say we're best friends, but we talk a lot, and he's a Western Kansas kid, and so am I. And then I'm real close with Colin Sexton, who's one of the associate football ads. That pretty much grew up in my hometown. So I trust our administration. They're small town, farm, brass tacks guys, and that's what wins football games. You can't, we were doing the glitz and the glamour there for a while, and it obviously, it bit us in the butt. If we'd have managed our basketball program the way we managed our football program, they'd be, in as bad a spot as when Lance took over. But there's no question they're going to need to pay Lance, and I think they're going to do everything they need to do. There's never been a shortage of dollars and cents if we need it. And if it's justifiable, and I think everyone absolutely agrees it's justifiable. And they've been wanting to renovate that stadium since we were, over a decade ago when I was playing. You got to win football games for guys who want to pony up and redo something. But it's got to happen. There's no question. And Travis he's pushing hard for it. Right now we got a football team, we got a coach, and now's the time. And if we want to continue to win, you got to be able to bring recruits in and say, hey, this is pretty cool, instead of, hey, look at this.
Yeah, yeah.
This is such big, in comparison to a lot of places. You got to get those recruits, and the portal's really helped us. The transfer portal and the NIL stuff, it's only been a level the playing field, so it's going to help with KU football. It's not that great a thing for KU basketball. They're just going to have to try and keep up. So I do think the KUs, the SMUs, they have a little bit more of a chance to take advantage of some things here and make a come up. And I think no question, I think Leipold's staff has, played that transfer portal, like a champ so far.
You played the running back position. Devin Neal's very, very good. And then there's others. Jalen Daniels gave him the running game. Of course, he's hurt. Jason Bean can run. He's a heck of an athlete. But they're running for nice yardage. That's kind of their strength. It's unfortunate what happened to Jalen, but I really like what I saw from Bean when he came in a tough situation. Your thoughts about their identity on offense and what they do?
Man, they just move the ball. They make plays. Yeah, they make plays when they need to make plays. They've got some playmakers. From the running back position, we've never had running back depth like that since I've been watching KU football. I mean, man, there was a reason I was hobbling around out there with a busted leg half the time. We didn't have any depth. I mean, our next guy was a freshman, Tobin O'Perm, who ended up playing in the NFL as a DN. He was just a great athlete. But I think we've got three guys playing running back at KU right now that would play on any Big 12 team, if not start. Kai Thomas coming in from Minnesota, starting up there. Kai's, I think he's been a little dinged up here this first half of the season, but I expect big things from Kai. And Devin being a hometown kid, I think it's just fantastic. That's what we got to do. We have to win with Kansas kids, and then you've got to get some studs, out of some other places that are, diamonds in the rough. K-State wins when they're winning, having good seasons, with the majority of them being Kansas kids. I think most programs do that. Kids close to home, they play hard. There's the pride factor, and there's just a whole lot more that I think care in general. You want to go home and you want to be received well and, celebrated. You don't want to go home and be like, oh, man, you guys are terrible. Why are you playing there, Jake
Sharp, former Kansas running back, and now trainer, fitness, combine, showcases, does a great job. Jake, we appreciate it so much. Kansas and Baylor, Saturday morning, 11 o'clock kick at McLean Stadium on 365 Sports.
The way